of see the 4 tiles of what we really do. Bedding, roller shades, drapery, and of course custom is a big thing for us. RMI started out as a fabricator in the industry, and only in the last few years, with the cost of fabrics and the lead times of fabrics and things like that, we were asked to kind of get into the custom printing business. So we started out with just materials, but then, you know, like your base cost materials for your drapery, your sheer, your blackout, and of course we have now rolled into custom printing on roller shades, including having those facilities inside our own facility to be able to do that. So that is not all being farmed out to somebody else, that we're kind of in control of all that. So with bedding, we do have top of bed top sheets, like when you're doing triple sheeting. We do not do duvets, we do not do quilting, we don't do any of that. You know, so if they're triple sheeting, we have some very simple base cloths that on the top for the top sheet that you can print on or you can use just as it is. We do a big business with your bed wraps, your bed skirts, those kind of items. There's 3 different items: your box spring wraps, your bed wraps, and your bed skirts. I'll make sure you guys have a terminology form to show, because everybody does that a little bit different with terminology there. So make sure that I give that to you also. But a lot of those can be custom, or a lot of people do use our solid marathons for those. Makes it really simple just to do a box spring wrap or a bed skirt or something out of our solid marathons. So you can certainly go in that direction for those. For our shades, we do have selections for roller shades. You will find them in our roller shade book. So you've got blackout roller shades and a lot of selections there. You've got the specs for those on the back, so you can see the width of them, what they're made out of. You've got all your specs, cleaning instructions. You also have your sheer roller shades. You've got some selections here. Again, with your cleaning instructions, your width of materials, those kind of things. There are more selections that we can provide you, so you can just get with the Wells group, and they'll be able to bring over some extra selections for that for you to view. It's kind of sticking with the theme of roller shades. Roller shades is a big push right now with brands. So whether it's with your Hilton brands that has it in almost every brand that they've got out there, or if you're doing a boutique and you're doing, you know, your designer likes to do a sheer roller shade in the window with traversing drapery. Roller shades is a big thing in the industry right now. So you have to pay attention to the material that you're selecting, the width of the material versus the width of your window. You have to understand and be able to guide us of how you're going to want this installed. Are you wanting sheer shade on the inside, blackout on the outside? Are you wanting side channels? Are you going to do a metal fascia? And we do have the colors of the fascias available. So are you going to do a metal fascia, or are you going to do a faux wood, not a faux wood, but a painted wood cornice? Are you going to do a soft valance? What is your topper? Because you have to have a topper over the roller shades. You cannot have the roller shade without one, or you'll be able to see the mechanisms. Okay, so always remember that we've got to know what kind of topper and what is their plan of putting them in, so we can kind of guide that. There are certain situations that we're going to kind of say, you really want your blackout on the outside, or you want your blackout on the inside, depending on if they are using side channels. It's just how it operates with the chains a lot easier. If that blackout's on the inside side channels and your shear's on the outside, that way you're not having to reach around side channels to get to the shear to get it open. It just kind of works and installs a lot better for the customers using the room. When it comes to motorization, we have 3 different ways that we do suggest for motorization. If you are doing a reno, then you want your rechargeable battery, okay? And that's what that is for. To change the batteries in those wall switches, it's just a face plate on there. You unscrew the face plate, you pull it out. It's just a couple of AAA batteries. Really easy. You put it back in and you just screw the faceplate back on. Super simple. This is how you're going to charge it. So we send two 12-foot recharging cords with every project. And again, typically ADA rooms are 4 to 6, 7 rooms, okay? So we send two rechargeable cords with every project. So the rechargeable cord, this is the female end, and you will have the male end on the cord, and then it goes into a standard outlet. So as long as and it's 12 feet. So you typically have an outlet within 12 feet. What happens when this battery gets low, and if a end user or if a housekeeper tries to use it, it will beep 10 times, and it will say, my battery's getting low, which is fine. Let's just say the guest comes in the evening, the guest puts them down for the day, and he calls down and he's like, my roller shade's beeping. All the front desk has to say is, that's fine. It's still usable till in the morning. If you will allow us in your room in the morning, we can recharge it. It will work fine for you for the evening, and it will stop beeping. It only does that when it's in operation. So it will work fine for you till in the morning. In the morning, the housekeepers go in, they plug it in up top, they plug it into the outlet, 30 minutes, and it's recharged. So an hour per room with dual shades in it, okay? Typically, it only needs recharging every 3 to 4 months. So you're talking about 3 to 4 times a year. So that's really not bad. It does sound like there's a little bit of a hassle to it, but it's really not a bad situation when you're doing a reno and you're being required to do roller shades. This is your choice. And it's really, you just put it on a maintenance schedule with your maintenance guy. Have it in the book downstairs at your front lobby desk, because sometimes there's a lot of turnover there. Here's the response. Here's what's going to happen. Here's the response, what we need to do. Okay? If you are doing a new build, you have got a couple of different choices that you can use. Let me just unwrap this real quick so you can kind of see. So you can do a hardwired version, or you can do a plug-in version. This conversation needs to happen when at the early stages.
Okay.
So when you know it's a new build, and that is something to kind of ask up front when the first requests come in. Is this new build or is this reno? So when you know it's a new build and you know there's going to be ADA rollers, say, okay, are we doing hardwired? Are we doing plug-in? Both require conversation with our client as well as then with the GC and the electrician, because they have to both be prepared for this. The GC has to put in the right studding for the box that the electrician will need in the right area for these to be in. If it is hardwired, what I've got here is just 2 wires clipped together just to show you, because it's the same motor, it just has 2 different ends. So I've clipped together 2 different ends here for your viewing.
Gotcha.
So you've got, if it's hardwired, what we are doing now with this Rollease motor is asking them to put a conduit in the wall. So our guys, and then that conduit would come down to the box that is already there from the electrician that's ready to be wired in. So when our installers come, they feed the hardwired line down the conduit into the box, and then the electrician comes back and hooks them up. We need that electrician back while we are still installing, because then our installers then have to program this motor, okay, with the operation, okay? So it just takes that communication. We have found that this works better than using the Somfy. When we used the Somfy, what would happen is it had a similar end to this, but it had like a separate pigtail that we would have to send prior to them putting up sheetrock. And a lot of times that didn't happen. Sheetrock would get put up and now you're in trouble. So in this case, it's a lot easier, because you just tell them, we have a conversation, John and Kenny can have a conversation with that GC, with your client, with the electrician, and say, here's the conduit we need it to flow down to here. We can draw it on a CAD for them if they'll supply us that image. We can tell them right where we need that to go. and then they'll come back and wire it up, and then we'll go back in and do the programming. If they want the plug-in version, so again, same motor, just a different connection. A lot of people go with this, so they're not having to recharge, they're not having to worry about the electrician doing this. Now with the plug-in version, it has to be a conversation on, and we have to draw that on a drawing. Let's just say this is going for Hampton. Hampton has those dual shades. The blackout shade is 6 inches outside that window, so it's got to be at least that far out. And then you've got the upholstered cornice that goes up on top, and so it's another couple of inches. We want the outlet for the plug-in to be up at the top underneath the cornice, but yet outside, so in between the blackout and the cornice. You've got to have a space up there. Okay, and it's super important that they put it there, because now we're going to make those cornices we've had this conversation, we're going to make those cornices the right size to fit that window based on the conversation we've had of where this is going in. We have walked into properties where what happens is the GC didn't put quite the right studding in the wall for the electrician to then put his outlet box where it needed to be. And so it was too far outside the window, and we had to remake very large cornices then to cover it, because this cannot be viewed per the brands. They don't want to see this. They don't mind if they use this, but they don't want to see this. So there's a little bit more conversation. Of course, it's a new build, so there's always a little bit more conversation. But you do have to kind of think about this. This, again, has the antenna to go to the wall control, just like the other one, okay? Now, wall controls on new builds can be hardwired if they insist on that. There is additional cost to that, but it is really unnecessary since they are very easy to change out the batteries. Okay? A lot of information there for roller shades. A lot of information for roller shades. You do have to have a topper on the top of your roller shades. If they don't want a wood cornice, and if they're not doing the upholstered cornice, and they're not doing a soft balance, then this is the fascia, and it's just a metal, and it really does look similar to this. I could get you guys some samples of those, but it's just kind of this shape, and it's long, and it fits right over. And there are brackets on the end of it where the roller shades fit in, so it all kind of fits together as one piece. They do come in specific colors. So if you need, a 3-inch, there's specific colors for that. If you need a 5-inch, there's specific colors for that. Typically white and black come in everything, but a couple of these only come with this specific size. Have a form I can give you for that, and you can get that information out.
How many, is that allowed to be used much, the metal?
It really is used somewhat in the lobbies and in corridor areas. So again, in corridor areas, when it's just the sheer shade maybe up there, they would use this. Makes it a lot easier, because when you think about corridor areas, you often have to work around exit signs and other signage and other things going on at the end of it. Sometimes it's sprinklers and all kinds of things that you're having to work around. So typically corridor areas definitely use fascias. Lobbies a lot of times will use a fascia instead of doing another topper on that, because they just kind of minimize that. Most of the time in guest rooms, there is a different topper. There's the painted wood cornice or something like that. Every now and then you would find a fascia. I have had a customer who really did not want any light leakage at all. And in their country and in suites, they did dual shades with a sheer on the inside, the blackout on the outside, within the window, with side channels, a bottom seal, so it kind of fits behind that bottom seal and again helps with light leakage, with a fascia, with a wood cornice. That room is dark. And they used a black roller shade with a black cornice.
Gotcha.
So it just kind of depends. Sometimes you come across that they want the fascia also. So if they send us a spec and it doesn't have another topper, then we're going to ask that question. Are you wanting to do a fascia or are you wanting to do a cornice? Because you've got to do something. Okay? Any other questions about roller shades? Okay. So let's kind of get into drapery. Drapery 101. very, very basic stuff. You certainly have specific pleats in drapery that are used. So just to kind of show you. So this is what's considered a knife pleat. And it does have the clips in the back because it goes on the same hardware as a pinch pleat. It's the same little clips. This is called a grommet and stiffener. A lot of times if somebody really knows what they're talking about with drapery, they'll call out they need the grommet and stiffener. So the grommet is where the baton will go in, and so there's a screw that goes in and screws it on, and it's held into that grommet. This is your leading edge of your drapery. So whether it's center draw, whether it's a one-way draw, this would be your leading edge that would have that grommet and stiffener. Okay. Knife pleat isn't used a whole lot in the industry. Every now and then certain brands, certain things come up and they do want the knife pleat. It does take a little less fabric than a pinch pleat. I think that's the biggest reason that might be used. This, of course, is your pinch pleat, which is typically used on most brands and most projects. It's just a standard pinch pleat. You can see the pins in the back there also. Again, because when it comes to hardware, it uses the same hardware that these just clip right in. You can see why it uses a little bit more fabric. People will mention fullness. So this would be like a 200% fullness in the window, where a knife pleat would be 150% fullness. It has the volume of that material. So it's almost like 2 times the material, the width of the window is why. And so because you've got to have enough material to gather the pleats. Okay. Again, you've got your grommet and stiffener on your leading edge. There where your baton would go in there. You then have your ripple fold. Ripple fold is often used in lobbies. You do not, choice for the comfort uses ripple fold only on the side panels because they're stationary, but the blackout and the sheer that's traversing is pinch pleat. It's a prettier fold. It's less traditional looking than your pinch pleat, but to put it in guest rooms as a traversing piece, it has a lot of light leakage. There's a lot of space up in here versus the pinch pleat. So a lot of things come over it. We do need to know what their fabrication is because you can see the back of it has snaps. And so the hardware to install these snap in to the hardware where those clipped in. So that is why we need to know what is their type of fabrication. It also plays into how much fabric we're going to have to order for that project. So are they doing pinch pleat? Are they doing knife pleat? Are they doing ripple fold? Typically it's where it's going into is kind of dictates that, but that's always important to ask the client if they don't tell you, okay? With drapery, as a standard, RMI does carry some standard materials, what we call production ready materials for drapery. So if you had a budget friendly or needed a budget friendly material, you could use our Bentley materials. You've got some nice neutral grays here and some brown tones here. This is a textured, colored 3-pass blackout. So you can see on the back. So you could put this with a simple sheer. Most of these are used in choice brands. That's kind of where they were created from. But we have a lot of people that use them in a lot of different areas. If they're just needing more of a budget-friendly blackout and just don't want to use the white blackout. It can be used by itself or it can be used with a sheer. You can put down a topper with it. We could create, either a upholstered cornice or even a valance with the same material up top. Okay, another blackout that we have, this one is more smooth, but you can see the different nice neutral colors in it. Grays, creams, browns, camel. So this one's just a little smoother, has like a suede feel to it, but again, it is a 3-pass blackout. So again, budget friendly, easy to use. We've seen some really gorgeous properties that use just a simple color, just a simple solid color. It doesn't have to be a pattern, it doesn't have to be fancy. It's all about just making the room very simple and soft, and these work well with that. Again, I showed you Marathon a while ago, but not only could you use Marathon for the bedding that we were talking about, but this is used for overdrapes also. So the difference between a blackout and an overdrape is lined with blackout. So those are kind of the terminologies that you would see on a quote even, would be blackout lined, yada yada, or an overdrape. Those are some terminologies that you would see. So you could pick one of these, and again, just a nice simple navy in a room, or a gray, a nice gray in the room. And you could have just something really simple, really easy, and it could be really elegant. Okay, so those can be used for bedding, they can be used for drapery. We also have given you the opportunity to custom print. Now we can custom print on every base cloth that we've got, and we have base cloths, multiple base cloths for different areas. So we have shears, excuse me, we have shears, we have blackouts, including like a textured blackout. We have the materials, what I call like the face fabrics for the overdrapes, but also could be used in bedding. So this is Marathon, and this is the same base cloth as the solid Marathons, but we just bring it in white also to print on. So when I am referring to Marathon solids, that is what I'm referring to. If somebody selects a Marathon for a base cloth, it starts out as white, and then we print on there what they need to be printed on there. So kind of be a little confusing, but not too bad. Ada, so some nice cloths here for all different applications, as well as being able to custom print on your roller shades. So everything in a window we can custom print on besides your painted wood cornice. So your blackout, your sheer, your drapery, your roller shades, both sheer and blackout, your upholstered cornice, we can print the material for that. So it's all here, and we have those choices for you. We have, and I'm going to show you online, we have created some patterns for you to use both in the smaller scale and in a larger scale. Even though we created them in these particular scales of patterns, you can still say, Ellen, when we get into the custom, I'm going to show you that, but you can say, Ellen, I need this scaled up. I really like that pattern, but I'd like to put that on drapery, and I think it would look really good if we could scale that up by 200% or 50%. Or Ellen, I would like to put this on a bed wrap or a bed skirt. Let's scale it down by half, because it's going to make it a smaller looking print and not be, the whole show in the room, but just add to the decor that's going in there. So you can always do this, because these prints are not sitting on the shelf in these colors. These are just digital images in a computer that when somebody selects the print, they select the cloth, we know what the application is, we can print that sample like that. That's when it gets printed. It does not get printed before. So it's not sitting there ready. So all of this would be custom, whether we've created the pattern or you supply us a new pattern to create. So you've got 4 colorways that we've done even in these that are there, but a lot, you can do so much more with them. So let's just kind of roll on a little bit into the website. And again, it does talk about the custom here, and we're going to show you that. So if you scroll on down in the website, before we get away from the home page, you can go into your resources and catalogs. And the first thing here is your measurement forms. It's always real important, and we don't expect a property to go, if you don't have plans, if it's a reno, we don't expect you to go and measure the whole property, but it is helpful if somebody at the property has at least measured 1 room per floor when it comes to guest rooms, and at least give you a good image of what you know, how many windows and the size of windows in your public space, if you're quoting that. They can certainly take pictures of those, but having those images, we're also going to look those properties up online, and we would encourage our clients, if they've not been to that property yet, to also do that, so they might can see little quirky things that some of those rooms might have, whether they need one-way draws, whether they need a single side panel because the P-tack and the window's up in the corner and there's no room for double side channels or side panels, whether you wanted the single side panel but you wanted the cutout that's going to go across that P-tack, that we literally cut out the side panel that would traverse, and we would cut it out to go across the P-tack. So those are little things that we can do, and by reviewing your plans and by reviewing your property and the pictures, you might catch some of the quirky things that we might need to ask before we quote. But here you've got ceiling mounted forms, wall mounted forms, multiple sections. These are windows with mullion. So you've got windows here, you've got 3 large windows going across and mullion in between there. That's the mullion, that metal area. And so you typically would not have one roller shade material that could go all the way across there. So we would like to put 3. If it was a guest room, we would certainly try to go all the way across. We'd kind of guide you to a pattern and a material that could go all the way across and motorize it because of the width of that window. But if it's in a public space, then we could certainly just do 3 different sheer shades. Okay, and then of course your single roller shade. So that would be used in your guest rooms if you know you're going to have roller shades. Again, why would I need to measure one for each floor? Often your ceiling to floor measurement, especially from first floor to the second, third, and fourth, are different. You may have 9 or 10-inch ceilings on the first floor because they didn't drop the ceiling, and then on the other floors you only have 8. Makes a huge difference when quoting even side panels or even an upholstered cornice. How much room is above between the top of the window and the ceiling, how much space is there, also dictates whether things are going to be ceiling mounted or wall mounted. So knowing your window and having all these measurements helps us kind of guide your client in the best direction of install and how things are going to be installed and how we're going to quote it. So now we know how we need to quote that. Also here you would have a warranty form, so clients need that to submit to brands or to their client. You've got that here also, and a credit card form if they need that. If you scroll up a little bit, so what happens is when you go into that area, it takes you straight to the resources of the catalog. So broken or missing parts, you will at times have clients that either want to keep their hardware, they may have 5 layers of paint on it, and it might need to be changed, but they might think they still need to keep it. Or they want to install their self, and you know, if we've forgotten to package something in there, or they're -1 or 2 or whatever, often they don't know what to call what they're looking for when it comes to hardware. So this kind of helps in that area to supply the direction. Okay, are you missing, you know, screws for your baton? Are you know, did you not get enough slides on your hardware, which should come automatically on there? Or if you're keeping it, do you have the pinch pleat slide or the shear slide, or the ripple fold is further down? So again, it's different carriers there. Do you have wall mounted track? Do you have ceiling mounted track? Is it a bracket? These are the true brackets that you need. Or you go on down, there's a master carrier. So those master carriers fit right there at that stiffener and grommet. Okay, that's your center lead area. Another good thing here is to show them the difference between an ADA baton and a regular baton, in that baton does have the handle there and the different materials that those are made from. We will be adding, I don't believe it's there yet, but we will be adding to those the different links that those come in, 36, 42, 50, 60, something like that they come in.
Gotcha.
Okay, so we'll be adding to those. So let's go back to resources. So you also have your deco hardware catalogs here. So we do have a wood catalog and a metal catalog. Both of those come from the same company, just different divisions. Haven't seen a lot of wood out there yet, but there are times when it is there, and I've run into it at different hotels, and so I thought, well, let's at least provide it for you here. So and it is real wood, it's not resin. So if you need those samples, we can certainly provide those samples. Most of the catalogs come with the metal. And so you do have your catalog here that you can look at all the different finials. The H rail, and it is towards the bottom of this 24-page catalog, so we may not scroll all the way down, but the H rail is what we typically use. You can order that in both pinch pleat and ripple fold. This is your ripple fold carriers here, so those snaps would snap right into there. This is your leading edge here, your master carrier that would come through. It's called an H rail because if you could see on the inside, the actual pole looks like an H, and that's so that you can have your carriers underneath. You can attach it to the wall or to the ceiling and still have your pinch pleat, your ripple fold, whatever, and not have to use grommets. So often when you did decorative metal, you had to use grommets, and now you don't. You can use the H rail, but we can still do grommets if you call for grommets. So you've got all of that information here in this catalog. You've got finishes for those metals that you can select, and it tells you it's chrome or there's a smooth black, just different finishes that you can look at. And it will tell you on the back and confirm it with the catalog what you're looking at. Okay. So let's just pop back over to services here. Again, it gives our categories. One good thing to kind of underneath the drapery, it's going to give you a little spiel about the drapery. But if you scroll on down, it also gives you images that we've talked about with the pinch pleat, the knife pleat, the ripple fold, and the grommets. So sometimes that may be easier if a client's needing to walk their client through it. They may not have all of this. This will show them what they need there and what they've got and what they're going to get. And again, everything kind of drives at the website. Everything's driving them to the design portal. At the bottom of every page, it's driving you to the design portal.